IVM.
Close your eyes for a moment and imagine. What would you be doing today had it not been for your day-to-day responsibilities of meeting work deadlines and making sure your family is financially secured? Would you have been a footballer, kicking the ball around on those grassy grounds? Or would you have been an artist, sitting near a window overlooking the hills as you paint away? Maybe you crave to be a photographer. But here you are, framing a picture of the life you wish you had. But this can still be a reality. करो पूरे अपने इरादे, अपनों से किए सभी वादे. SBI Life अपने लिए, अपनों के लिए. To know more about our insurance plans with wealth creation, log on to www.sbilife.co.in. IRDAI registration number 111.
Hey guys, IVM Podcasts is turning 7. Can you believe it? It's been an awesome journey for me specifically. I was a guest on Karthik Nagarajan's podcast Filter Coffee to start off proceedings. Then, I started doing my own podcast, which was called The Traveling Professor's Diary, and then it's transformed into Smarter with Sid. I've done about more than 220 odd episodes along with IVM, and it's been such an awesome journey for me with these wonderful folks. I can't wait to see what the next 7 years brings for all of us. Here's your smart fact of the day. Kanye West, one of the world's best-selling music artists, he's got over 160 million records sold. West has won 22 Grammy Awards, the joint 10th most of all time, one of hip-hop's greatest artists with his music amongst the most acclaimed. He's won so many awards, it's just impossible to recount all of them. He's had a pretty good life as a producer and a rapper, and currently he is in the eye of a personal storm. He's diagnosed with bipolar disorder, has having problems with his personal life, and has recently been featured in a documentary called Genius, which I really think that everybody can take a look at. It's a 3-part documentary on Netflix, and it's a very interesting one because there's so many lessons there. Welcome to Smarter with Sid. And in today's episode, we are taking a look at Kanye West and some of the lessons that I gleaned from looking at his 3-part documentary on Netflix. And what is it that we can take out of it? Let's go. So first things first, this is not about Kanye West's music. It's pretty interesting, the music itself, and he's world acclaimed. This is not a critique or anything of his music, but it's about the fact that he was is a very successful entrepreneur. If I have to look at him as a brand, it's a very classical story. You have somebody who's very successful, and then that somebody explores different styles, so those are brand extensions for you, and then also goes out to build his own venture or a series of ventures into fashion and makes it really, really successful. Now, at a superficial level, that seems really interesting, but what was more interesting for me was to understand how the word positioning actually gets in the way as far as Kanye West is concerned. So what does positioning mean? It actually means that, perceptions are created about who you are to the community or the target audience that you serve. So for example, and we've all experienced this, we've always had a nickname in class, or people know us for certain kind of ability or skill. Yes, this guy is a great fast bowler, or this guy does really well with the ladies, or whatever it is. And that kind of sobriquet kind of connects to you for the rest of your life, at least when you come back and face that target audience or that community. So sometimes a nickname in school, sometimes, just an understanding of who you are as a working professional. And sometimes even a brand can go through it, right? Or in fact, most of the times, a good brand tries to do its own positioning really, really well. So whenever I am positioning, I am sacrificing something. So for example, if I'm saying, hey, I am cheap, buy me, it means that I am not very quality conscious, maybe. That's what remains behind in my head. So why am I going on about positioning? Well, positioning is what kind of screwed over Kanye West at the very beginning. So he was somebody who was a rapper. He was really encouraged by his mother. Hats off to her, the way in which she kind of managed his precocious talent. I think that he was always a rapper trying to do great music but only was recognized for the beats that he created and for the records that he produced. So all the great companies in this particular space like Rockefeller and all of the others recognized Kanye, and even the other artists recognized Kanye as a great producer. That became his positioning, and because that became his positioning, he struggled with it. He was making a reasonable amount of money, and he was kind of successful with whatever he was doing, but nobody was taking him as a rap artist very seriously. And trust me, if you see the documentary, you'll understand how hard the struggle was for somebody who was trying to break out of their current owned positioning. So from a marketing perspective, if somebody is going to label you, it is very, very difficult to get out of the label. But Kanye, to his credit, kind of managed to break through that positioning that the world had given him, that his audience had given him. And the struggle is what a lot of this documentary is about. The way in which he struggled, the way in which he hustled, it was just incredible to watch. Every single time he used to create some kind of music, some kind of magic, it was almost as if the fates were conspiring for him to be not seen that way. And trust me, it wasn't as if the other people were just being benignly watching him and judging him. It was also about them conspiring to make sure that he was seen in a particular way and not in a particular way. Because if he became known as a rap artist and he was really original, it would have meant that there was competition on the block. Kanye also was creating a certain kind of rap which was not very normalized at that point in time, because all the other rap artists were kind of creating a kind of music which was gang driven, and Kanye was not like that. He was somebody who kind of was almost educated, in the sense almost meaning he was pursuing a degree. And in fact, his first album was called The College Dropout in 2004. I think he released it. And it was something which was a statement. Like, here I am, somebody who is, you'll have those stereotypical images of black rap artist. Not Kanye. He just broke the mold. And that is why he struggled. So do remember that if you have something completely new to the marketplace, you are going to come in for a bit of a struggle. That's lesson number 1 for me. Lesson number 2 for me was not just his fight, but his vision. The way in which his vision was, developing throughout his life was documented over a span of 20 years, which is what makes this documentary quite amazing. It was, filmed by his friend, and it was documented, and that documentation makes for fascinating viewing. One of the core aspects of that entire transition into a rap artist was the way in which he was able to create a new kind of music every single album that he was able to generate. And not just that, but the way in which he was able to define himself as a brand. So lesson number 2 was, he said, I don't want to be a shabbily dressed artist. I want to be the best dressed artist ever. And his extension of his brand was Yeezy, which was a fashion label, and that fashion label was all about stylish, minimally driven clothes. And it was incredible to see him position himself in that particular way. After being rejected for so long, he was able to actually consolidate and yet carve out even a better niche for himself as a player. And he was able to do something beyond the typical normative rules of the game. That is a very incredible positioning. If you are new to the game, if you are struggling to find your place in the sun, create your own market. Serve a completely different need. And that is what Kanye did with his music and with his other ventures. That's incredible too. Sadly, the third lesson is about how a vision can become a delusion. Kanye, over a period of time, suddenly was deluded with his vision, has stood for president of all things of the United States, and has come across as a severely challenged person when it comes to doing media interviews, or even his latest music is kind of an iffy, got less critical acclaim, and is somebody who seems to have forgotten the basics of what made Kanye. So his vision became more and more grandiose. He lost touch with reality, and I think when vision becomes delusion, that is when problems come, especially for celebrities and stars and the rest of it. They lose touch with reality. So it's this very same strengths that define them, their ability to see something which other people cannot, in terms of their vision and their ability to see a future for themselves, and the way in which the future itself would shape, can become deluded if they lose touch. And it's a very difficult thing. Nobody knows what happens in somebody else's brain. But unfortunately, the third lesson is don't let your vision become a delusion. And especially if you're becoming famous, or especially if you're reaching some success which you haven't tasted before in your life, be very, very careful, because you'll be surrounded by yes men, you'll be surrounded by all kinds of influences, and you'll be basically connected to a delusion rather than a vision. Well, those were the 3 lessons I got from Mr. Kanye West. Lots to learn. And hopefully we can actually employ these lessons in our life. So even if it's the life of a celebrity, why not actually learn from it and become smarter? So this is what I chose to do with this episode of mine. And if you like this particular podcast, well, like or subscribe it. And if you like me, I'm the Traveling Professor on Instagram and on LinkedIn. And hey, if you like podcasts like these, IVM's got a lot of stuff out there for you. Do check it out. On that happy note.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Advertising is Dead, Varun is joined by Pooja Chabria and Pooja Tingra to talk about LinkedIn's Creator Accelerator program, a new initiative designed to support creators on LinkedIn through coaching, recognition, and resources. We have a brand new show on the network this week, Mind the Gender Gap. In the first episode, we talk about what keeps Indian women from joining the workforce. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by Rahel Padamsi and Vandana Saxena Poria to discuss a book by Alik Padamsi called Let Me Hijack Your Mind. They talk about what the book is and how Vandana got involved with the finishing of the book. On the Habit Coach podcast, Ashton is joined by Loveleen Sirohi, co-founder at India Hemp Organics. They discuss what hemp is and how it's beneficial to our body and much more. On Tere Mere Raaste, Keshav takes us on a beautiful journey to the mountains from Leh to Manali. On All Things Policy, the hosts talk about the rising tension between Russia and Ukraine and how technology is becoming a frontier of the conflict. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you enjoyed this show or any of our shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Word of mouth really does help us. And also, please, a rating if you could. That is also extremely helpful to us. And remember, we're also on YouTube. You can check out ivmpodcast.com/YouTube to get a list of the different channels that we operate on YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, SBI Life Insurance, Bank of Baroda, India Water Portal, and Max Life Insurance. Thank you so much for making this possible.
You're the people pleaser, right? Oh, yes. Or then desperately seeking the one? Oh, wait, you're the one who doesn't think they're ever good enough. Oh. So much drama. And for what? Is it doing you any good? Listen to me. I'm Chetna, your favorite positive action coach. Yes, I'm the one who has been dropping all those truth bombs on every episode. Oh, no. And it's time you learn to say no to drama. That's also what my podcast is called. And a new episode is out every Monday and Wednesday on the IVM Podcast app, website, as well as all major podcasting platforms.